Would you look at me and think that I'm on steroids?
100%.
I just learned out that all of the people who are competing in the IFBB at the Olympia, I just found out that they're not natural.
I doubt that. Come on. And you eat well. Be honest with me.
No.
What food?
Like Five Guys, McDonald's breakfast, ice cream.
Speaking to you just in this conversation, said you're fat.
I'm not eating junk food. I'm powerlifting. I'm a powerlifter.
It sounds fat.
How much do you think this body can deadlift?
190 pounds. What is your ambition? You know, what's your vision? And
I'm just like, I hate myself.
you're spot on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Don't Be Sour. I'm your host, Max Tuning. Today we have four-time Olympia champion, muscle man himself, Mr. Jay Cutler. How you doing, man?
What an introduction, man.
All right, well, I figured it's been so long. I feel like the people need like the top two bodybuilders in the world sitting at a table. So we finally were able to do it. Thanks for letting us come out here and filming your spot, man.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to see your success, and it's good to have you guys pop into Vegas. Makes it easier for me because I've been trying to come down to Texas.
Yeah.
But.
You know what's something I actually learned? So I was telling you I did a little bit of research before I come here. This might be a dumb thing to say, which will happen throughout this podcast. I didn't know that Jay is short for Jason.
Yeah.
Is everyone who's named Jay, is that short for Jason?
You know, it's kind of funny. When I started bodybuilding, I registered under Jason, legal name. And I actually had this vision that I would become something in the bodybuilding community, a name, established name, and I wanted to abbreviate. So when I did retire, I could separate and go back to the original. Like my mom calls me Jason, people from high school, but no one really called me Jay, to be honest. It was just created only for this bodybuilding persona, which really is what this whole thing's been, truthfully. I mean, I was pretty introverted when I started. I wasn't a showman,
yeah.
And I had to learn to become that, especially being on stages and being in front of people and speaking. And you know what? Now, of course, I've retired, but I still haven't escaped being Jay Cutler, right? Because I never thought social media would become a thing that would prolong the bodybuilding career past what I ever imagined.
So essentially, Jay is your stripper stage name.
Yeah, because exactly. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I'm just glorified because, of course.
My name isn't Diamond, okay?
Yeah.
Well, can you just tell? I always like to start the episodes off in case people don't know. And I like to pitch this as if you're in an Uber with someone, and someone just says like, "Hey, like, what do you do? What's the first thing that you say to like the random person? Maybe not someone who's interviewing you or whatever. Like, what do you identify as to the average person?"
I say I competed professionally as a bodybuilder for over 20 years. Similar to, I say, Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Olympia 7-time. I was a 4-time winner there. Best bodybuilder in the world. Pretty much that's what I kind of go by, even though I've worn 12 million hats since then, even along the way. But pretty much a former professional bodybuilder, even though I still hold the IFBB title of a bodybuilder, right? IFBB pro.
Whenever you like explain that you're a professional bodybuilder, do you like, let's say you're in an Uber, do they immediately go, okay, I have some like stubborn belly fat, like right here. Like I'm doing a lot of crunches at nighttime. Like, what's your advice?
No, they actually say to me, yeah, I had a friend that competed. He was Mr. Wisconsin or
that's the same thing, right?
And that's the same thing, right? Or I have a 16-year-old son. He's like your size, and
Mr. Wisconsin right now is punching the ceiling.
So that's pretty much, they kind of have someone they know that did this bodybuilding thing. And I just try to separate, this is not strongman. It's actually posing and artistic body shaping rather than, picking up heavy things, which we kind of did both, right?
Yeah. And I feel like with all of you've done, I mean, I think I counted them all as, I think it's 1 million interviews since you stepped on the stage back in the day.
Probably.
And I feel like everyone always just wants to hear, like how did you get into fitness? How did you get into bodybuilding? I feel like that story's been beaten to death, and you probably are tired of talking about it. What do you wish people would ask you? What do you wish you could talk about on interviews? Do you ever get bored of just...
You know what? The funny thing is I don't, because when you have interest about someone, unless you do heavy research, like, a lot of people don't understand what goes into this whole bodybuilding thing and what the real goal was, right?
Yeah.
I don't think in the beginning, the goal wasn't necessarily only to be a bodybuilder. Like I wanted to be a business guy. And from the beginning, people said, you can't make money doing this. And I was like, man, I'm going to make money. Like, I'm going to prove this. I came from a family business. I was making money at 11, 12 years old. You know, I was in high school driving nice cars, and, you know, I was making $500 a week back in, you know, the late 80s. And, you know, that was a lot of money for back then. And, you know, I was very successful. So for me, I was like, you know, I had this success. I want to carry it over and do something. And if someone tells me you can't do something, I guess I'm a little stubborn in a way. And I wanted to prove something different. That's what really the whole career was about.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you summarize your entire upbringing, or like your life story that like led you to where you're at now?
You know, youngest of 7 kids. You know, my parents separated when I was young, so I was pretty much raised by my brothers and sisters because my dad was working as a highway superintendent pretty much full time. And my dad was 44 when he had me. So my oldest brother's almost 64 now. So I have an age gap between my brothers and sisters, like 10 years to my next sibling.
Yeah.
You know, besides my sister's actually a year older than me. So it was like my sister and I. And I kind of, you know, I came from a super small town that no one really chooses to leave, and that's a great thing sometimes. I mean, they get into business, family tradition carries over.
Where was it?
Massachusetts, Sterling, Massachusetts. So for me, it was, you know, I wanted to get out. I had this vision, believe it or not, as a young child. I liked, you know, watch TV movies or TV shows, and I saw California, and I was like, wow, this is where it's at. And then coincidentally, when I started looking at bodybuilding books at 12, I saw that opportunity because most of, you know, looking at the Schwarzenegger times and Gold's Gym, and like that was where everyone kind of migrated for this bodybuilding venture. And I thought, man, that's coincidental because, you know, that's where I wanted to eventually be. And that's why I kind of took a liking to bodybuilding. And I always had a great physique. Like I said, I worked construction growing up. My brother's on a concrete business, very successful one back in Massachusetts. So I mean, besides taking over that business, you know, I went to college to be a police officer, and, you know, eventually my goal was to get to California, which I did.
Does every large bodybuilder want to be a police officer? It was like Ronnie Coleman. It's coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, where I came from, it was like I was either going to work in a prison or, you know, it was kind of like the fallback. Like if this doesn't work, even though I was persistent, I was probably not going to fail at what I did. You know, firefighters or whatever. I think I wasn't sure. I think like any kid at 18 years old really doesn't have the true decision on what they want to do. So we go to college, and I just picked criminal justice to pursue. And I found bodybuilding in college.
Obviously,
and
that makes sense.
And that's what really like made me, it put me in a really like different place. Like when I hit the gym, and, you know, I don't know how you're trained. I know you started in fitness, and, you know, when I was in that gym 2 hours a day, 8 to 10 at night, because I was going to classes during the day, there was no other, like, it was just to put me in a different headspace. And that's what I fell in love with more than anything. And then the progress on top of that and the success, it really just, it just made me feel good. And that's how I explain even today, bodybuilding at almost 50 years old, going to the gym every day is still my favorite part of the day. It doesn't matter how successful or what a kind of career I had, and looking at accolades and all this other thing. It's what I love to do. If you asked me straight up, like, what excites you, it's still the training.
Just picking up weights and putting them back down.
It's just, I don't know what it is. It's a clear head, and it's my meditation. Other people find different ways to do that. The gym is kind of what it is for me.
So you said at 12 you were picking up magazines?
I found a magazine, a scrap magazine, laying around the house, and I saw Chris Dickerson. Do you know Chris Dickerson? He was a former Mr. Olympia.
Okay.
82. Samir Bennett was 83. And I looked at that physique, and I was like, man, this body is just like, this is just like the Batman, Superman figurines that I played with as a kid or saw in comic books. And I said, how does someone do this? And so I started reading through the books. And, you know, in high school, we toyed with weights a little bit. I was an athlete. I played football, and like I said, I was working construction, so I was very limited on social activities. So I learned, and I studied in GNC. Like, I went to the GNC. That's where it had all the magazines at the time, and I would look through the books and the magazine racks, and look at like, Muscle and Fitness and those kind of books and say, wow, these people are just pushing their bodies to the limits. And it kind of excited me. And I actually did not actually join the gym and start bodybuilding till I was on my 18th birthday, which was August 3rd, 1991. I joined the local Gold's Gym in Worcester, Mass. And I started this journey. I said, I want to join the gym and I want to make my physique better. And I was starting college that fall. So that was August. September, I started college. And, the rest is history pretty much.
So you're saying that while most kids are hiding Playboys under their mattresses, you're looking at gym magazines.
I was looking at books. And,
you were dedicated then.
Yeah, and I actually bought this guy Bob Paris's book at 16 called Beyond Built, and I read that thing front to back, and that was more of an instructional book. So that taught you the exercises, whether it was side laterals and squats, and to work the whole body. And that's the one thing when you start lifting weights, especially in high school, like you go to the gym and the kids bench press and they do curls, but you don't pay attention to the legs as much, right? Where I was kind of like, I learned about, okay, you have to train the whole body. And that's, I wasn't a kid that started with like a big upper body and no lower body. My lower body was actually the first area to come in for me. I mean, at 19, I think I squatted 700 pounds.
So your legs are like your genetic
And my
gift.
legs were always phenomenal.
To be honest, that's what I kind of feel about mine. A little bit different structure, but
you were a power lifter, correct?
in a past life.
But that's what you were a strength guy rather than a bodybuilder.
Yeah, but
right?
I think it was kind of, I was pushed into a corner. I feel like I had to because I was the small guy and I just felt like I think I did a lot of mistakes in my early on where, I think a lot of people do is they want to stay lean at all times in the early phases. So I feel like I missed out on a lot of progress I could have made in the first, 5 or so years of working out. But because I did that, I was like always the smaller guy. So I was just like, oh, I can deadlift more than my friends. If I can't get bigger, I'm going to get stronger. And if it was almost my comeback, if anyone would make fun of my legs, make fun of how small I physically looked, my comeback was, I can lift more than you. And that, to me, that was like good enough.
I can honestly say the first videos I've seen of you were power movements you were doing early. That was way back.
How much do you think this body can deadlift?
Now, today, or
what do you think's the most I've ever deadlifted?
650.
I think you did a research. Was that a
How
guess?
much? Yeah, it was
650.
Yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
I'd say it's okay. Now I can't. I feel like the older that I get, my body is just not. I feel like my mindset has changed so much. And before I used to go to the gym back in the college days, and I would think about going to the gym. When I was walking to the gym, I would talk. I was running like Jim Wendler 531, and I'd talk to my friends. Oh, I can't wait to lift this weight today. And at the gym, I would just only care about fitness. And now, just with life, I have not mastered the ability to shut out the stresses and the work of the world, and that is in my brain while I'm lifting weights.
That's not good.
I know, and I don't know how to separate it. Like I'm like, oh, let me try turning my phone off, and I'm thinking about purchase orders and shipments coming in, and I can't separate it, and I've just kind of come to accept it at this point. I feel like
it's kind of funny because when you said, I said now or you have done, because I was like, you're getting your ass to the gym right now.
I think right now, I think I could pull 600 pounds like right now.
You probably could, but if you've done 650,
yeah. But I
don't toy with the heavy weights as much and that's the one thing. I mean, people come to me at expos or whatever, and they're like, "How much do you bench?" and I say 550 because, and they're like, "Wow, I couldn't, dude. I couldn't."
They're like, "Load it up. Let's load it up."
I couldn't touch that now, but in my peak, I mean, I've done 550 for 2 maybe.
When you said so before the bras of the world, you were a bro, a concrete bro, mixing concrete.
Yeah,
Cutler Bros.
Cutler Brothers Concrete.
Right.
Is the name of the business. So I have 3 brothers that started the company. 2 are still working in that business.
Do you think if you never got into like physical manual labor, would that have, you think, changed a little bit? Because maybe you liked being able to lift more of the concrete packs or something?
I wouldn't have had the base. Like, one thing, I had a lean and a muscular physique. And, starting off with that, like, my metabolism was really good. I didn't have a great diet growing up. I didn't know much about nutrition. And, I came from a farming community, so we did eat healthy foods. We weren't allowed to eat a lot of sugar. And we grew a lot of stuff that we ate through the, farm and the gardens and stuff like that. So for me, it was, I had some sort of discipline to that too, but the discipline side of getting up every day before school, working after school, school vacations, weekends, that's what gave me the base for bodybuilding. The physique was there, but more importantly, the mindset to be able to focus on doing a task, right? And following through with that task, because it was a family business. We didn't punch clocks. So if we worked 12, 14, 16, sometimes 17-hour days, that was normal for me.
Yeah.
I had no restriction to, it was like I used to pray, honestly. I said, every day when I got up, said, please get me through this day, because I knew that 6 o'clock wake up time would go until I'd be at work until probably 7 o'clock at night without any kind of stopping or anything like that. That's what our job required.
So now if anyone's ever like, hey, Jay, dude, can you come over and help me like mix some concrete? You're like, don't ever say that to me again.
I could have taken, that would have been probably my career, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could have gone to college and done all these things, but ideally, very successful business. My brother's super successful, very great reputation, but it's a lot of hard work, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're still doing that in their early 60s, and here I am approaching 50, this year, and I don't know where it would have led me, but, I still would have been proud to do it. That's what my dad wanted me to do. So when I started bodybuilding in the beginning, it was kind of like, you sure you can make a living at this? And that's another question the Uber driver would ask me. Can you make money doing this?
Like people ask, like, oh, you YouTube? You make money from that?
Yeah. And it's like today, now, there's people making a great living as social media influencers or media channels, right? So, but I always said this. I never monetized the success. The success was like, okay, what impact can I have? And can I conquer certain tasks that I set out to do? And then eventually the money comes, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's with anything is like you do it because you love it, and the money and the success and everything that the cool stuff that comes along with it is a byproduct of you just doing your thing. It's similar to my love for content creation and YouTube. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it for 10 years now. Just celebrated my decade on YouTube, and for the first 2 or so years, I was making definitely the first year or so no money, and then 2 years in, I started making $100 here or there. I'd have like a $50 a month sponsorship for supplement products. So I was essentially, they were paying me $15 probably of their cost. So it's definitely love of the game, and then it kind of.
It's funny. It's funny how it changes though, because you just said to me, I can't train without thinking about POs and inventory and whatever else, because that's life.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been able to go to the top and chase the mountain, right, and just conquer the mountain. And now, of course, I've come down the other side, and I've had all these things that I've branched off and done and had great success, but I'm still able to carve out, whether it's an hour a day, to meditate and do my training and not think about these things. Like the phone has to go off, and we didn't have this extension back when I started, which was the phone.
Yeah, I think
we didn't have social media. Like now, it's like anytime you use the bathroom or you you're on your phone, right? You're just like, okay, I got to see what's happening and pay attention.
Well, let me ask you this, not to jump ahead in the conversation, but with your, we'll call it the meditation, your J time in the gym, right? Where you're focused. 99% of people now, when you go to the gym, in between sets, scrolling social media. What does Jay Cutler do?
My phone actually sits on my bag. Like before, when I started and cell phones came out, I didn't allow anyone around me to have a phone in the gym. And we didn't have videos and whatever else. I just didn't want to hear it ringing, right? So the phone just sits. I will listen to music sometimes, but I actually train at a gym a majority of the time here that's very exclusive, and there's not really any music playing. So it allows me to really zone in, and I have like the routine that I just follow, and I do a body part or 2 a day, and I take about an hour to train, and then I might do some I do cardio twice a day now, so it's a little different from my whole bodybuilding routine.
You don't listen to music while you work out?
I don't always, and sometimes I listen to podcasts, truthfully. And
he listens to Don't Be Sour, everyone.
Yeah, Don't Be Sour podcast. That's what I'm going to tune in and listen to all the episodes after this one. So, but it really depends on my mood.
Yeah.
It depends on what stresses I'm under, or if I just need to shut my brain off, because sometimes listening to music, it doesn't shut my brain off, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know some people need that, but I'll be honest, sometimes I get so into my sets or so into the routine, I don't hear the music anyway. People used to come up to me in the gym when I was training for Olympias and say, the music's so bad in here. And I say, what music? I don't even hear it. I can zone things out like that. You have to, because when you have that tunnel vision on what you do, that's my greatest ability, is to be able to block all noise and just
Literally.
yes, and just zone in on whatever I'm
So
trying to accomplish.
So what do you do in between your sets? If you're not scrolling Instagram,
I kind of look around the gym. Sometimes, like, I just honestly, my rest time's only 45 seconds.
are you pretty
I
like,
change weights.
strict on that?
I'm pretty strict. I just have, it's like a 12 rep range is what I usually follow too. And I don't even count reps, but I seem to follow. If someone counts my reps, I'm at 12. But I'll just, by the time I change the weights, or, you know, I usually scale up in the weights, that's usually the time, and I get back under the machine or under the dumbbells or whatever, and I just work.
I guess that's probably the difference of people who work out and people who train. I think there's a kind of a fine line, but your success, or the sometimes my words just don't come out of my mouth. The way you were brought up, the work that you did, the structure that you had led you to, you know, ultimately step on stage eventually.
You're spot on.
But before you got to Mr. Olympia, I want to say a memory that I have of you that I don't think you'll remember, but this is probably 2000 and it had to have been like 2015 or 16. I was leaving the Olympia and you were in the airport, like kind of near your gate, and I was just a wee little boy at the time, and I remember like, I was like, holy shit, it's Jay Cutler over there. And you were with some other people, but like I went up to you and I just knew who you were. I didn't know anything about you. I've never spoken to you. I never really even like consumed a lot of the content. But I was really like nervous to kind of like say hi to you. But I went up to you and you were just like, get the fuck away from me. No, I'm just kidding. No,
He knew you were going to say that.
Did he? Yeah. No, but you know, you were like so like humble. I don't even think I asked you for a photo or anything. I just wanted to like shake your hand. And that was the moment that I learned that everyone needs to learn here. I mean, you're a massive man, and I feel like people probably think you're a very aggressive guy. I want to go on the record to say you might have the most gentle, soft-handed handshake I have ever experienced in my entire life. That's a compliment. I don't know what moisturizer you're using, but like I just expected this like death grip of a handshake, and when you did, I was like, this was nice.
That's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Like,
For
you know how many
handshakes?
people? Well, because people like, hey Jay, how you doing? And they're like,
I feel like you have to.
I don't know. They just want us a size up thing. I think more than anything.
I think people are almost like think that they have to prove their like manliness to you.
I know, but what if I would have given you a firm handshake?
I would have expected like my fingers to get broken.
It wouldn't have sent any topic to cover when you met me.
You know what I think it is? I think it's for some reason when you're brought up for some reason, you know, and they say when you maybe meet your significant other and you meet their father and they're like, make sure you give a firm handshake. That's like always the firm handshake is the
So what happens now since the pandemic and now everyone's
firm fist bump. You just beat the shit out of their fist. But I wanted to say the first experience ever meeting you was lovely, and then you have a very soft handshake, and then flash forward many years later, we were we were in like Wet Republic or something at a pool party after Vegas, and I remember Christian and I came and talked to you, and that was when you were like, oh yeah, like I know who you are, and that was like,
of course, yeah.
Jay knows who I am. It was crazy. It was crazy. But we flash forward, and then boom, you're on the Olympia stage, 4-time Mr. Olympia, dethroned the Ronnie Coleman.
It's the greatest of all. You can say it.
I didn't say
the GOAT. You can say it.
I still think, and I don't. Here's actually
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT.
We'll
go on record.
He's a GOAT. I think Arnold's still the GOAT.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah.
Do you think that like there's always going to be someone that has a better physique, bigger physique, more crazy physique, but why do you think some people are more like forever in this like iconic thing, even though someone may be bigger than them, stronger than them?
You got to look at the times, and I hate the comparisons to the times. So I understand your argument on Arnold being the GOAT, because at his point where bodybuilding was, he was ahead of it, right? He won 7 in a row. I mean, some of them he didn't really have a lot of competition. They weren't necessarily paid to be bodybuilders on that level, where today, like, there's great revenue to be a bodybuilder, right? You get paid, that we can win money. But if you look at physique and, the transition of time, just Ronnie pushed the physique level to just a crazy conditioning, muscle density quality, right? Where, and he was like a power lifter and a bodybuilder together, right? He broke all weight records and had a crazy physique. To be honest, I mean, since Coleman stepped away, I don't know if anyone's even come close to his physique. I mean, Phil Heath was really good, but not as big and balanced as Coleman was on a size scale, but Phil held his own. I mean, not to say like Dexter Jackson has been great, or, Big Ramy or Sean Roden or, Brandon Curry, these
Max Tuning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
the greats, you got to name all of them.
That's just where I think it is. But Arnold's done definitely way more on a total scale. I mean, to be, the actor, the politician, put the
Terminator.
Put the Olympia on the map. Like, that's why you could really do the circular, pattern of what a GOAT is, right? It just depends on your description of what greatest of all time is.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a goat's literally just an animal, but in our
of course, yeah.
And what's interesting is seeing how much, I don't know what's been in the water over the years, but it's wild seeing it seems every single year we'll say the winner, but like it's just everyone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, you compare someone like you or Ronnie or anyone to Arnold, I mean, you essentially dwarf him, like, right? Like, I mean, you were massive compared to him, and it's just like, was he not pushing himself to that limit, or was it the use of different enhancements that were able to get that big?
Definitely, the enhancements changed, but also the nutrition changed a lot. The equipment we trained on was way different. I mean,
you think that had that much of an impact?
Yes, free weights and the training theories, like the volume training. I think Arnold overtrained himself a lot. Like, they would spend all day working out and not follow a nutrition pattern that would fulfill that. Now, as you know, the rest and the growth is done out of the gym. I think their perception was most of the growth was done inside the gym.
Yeah.
So I feel like the recovery process, remember now, like I said, people are paid to do this, so they can allow themselves not to go out and work a secondary job and instead fund themselves with a career. But there's been so many theories over the years on, carbohydrates versus protein, and now, of course, using good or bad, using good fats. I mean, you see people bulking now. I mean, it's just, there's much more opportunity and much more science to it.
Yeah.
Than there used to be.
I believe in science.
Even in 5 years and 10 years. I mean, that's one thing. Like, we've seen all these different types of training procedures and whatever else. I mean, look at the gyms that pop up. Look at the equipment that we train on. It's not just about a barbell and a bench press anymore.
I feel like
there's a lot of variations.
I feel like I'm still I don't know. I'm clearly not a bodybuilder, but I'm still very old school in my mentality of lifting, where I'm just like, all you need is a barbell. All you need is dumbbells. And I always reference, I'm like, do you think Arnold or Ronnie had the hoist, Arsenal strength, crazy contraption? It's like, no, and they're way bigger than you. So it's like, we don't need all this fancy equipment.
You're exactly right. But if you watch Arnold train in Gold's Gym, Venice, which he still does every morning, it's mostly machines now.
Oh, right? I bet. He's probably like, man, this hoist where I move with me is kind of nice.
He's 75. So, I mean, there's a lot of machines that mimic a lot of what the free weights, and I'm with you, because the base has started with the free weight movements, and you being more of a power trainer, that's what you focused on, right? But there's going to come a day and an age where your body might not feel as good under that squat bar as you once did.
I'm feeling that right now. Yeah,
I mean, if you were more consistent, you may get back in a rhythm, because I still feel you're young enough, but your intelligence has changed as far as training, I'm sure, in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're going to train tomorrow and get on a plane, do you want to beat the hell out of yourself before you get on that plane and say, okay, I got to ride back, a few hours to Texas in pain?
I'm going to skip the gym.
I don't want to be in pain anymore. That's the whole thing. So I don't want to push myself beyond limitations, if that makes sense.
No, I'm very in tune with that because and of course, when you're out on social media and in the public, everyone is not only an expert in the field, right? Everyone has their view of what you're saying in relation to them and how you're wrong because it doesn't happen for them. For examples will be, I was training for a powerlifting meet and I feel like my body started really breaking down. I kept having crazy IT band pain in both of my legs. My knees were hurting. I started getting a tendonitis in my elbow. And I'm just like, everything was hurting. My lower back is all hurting. And, obviously I think my form was okay. It wasn't perfect. But then it's all of a sudden I stopped doing these movements and I'm like, I feel great. I'm like, what's worth more to me? Squatting over 500 in a meet or not being in pain when I go to jump on a ledge or something and like my IT bands hurt or my back hurts when I'm sitting in a car, like what's worth it to me? And I think the older that I get, especially that I've hit, some accolades, at least in my world of strength for my body size, I think I've hit some huge milestones that most people haven't hit of my frame, that I'm almost like, I don't know if I feel the need to continue to push myself. And some people look at that as like, you're a bitch or like, you're not going to see your potential. And I'm more like, I feel bad when I kept pushing my body.
Yeah, see, I would do a lot of tissue work. Like I was huge into neuromuscular therapy and active release and that kind of stuff as I was growing and muscles, became a little more bound up. I tried to keep everything loose and pliable. And today you see now everyone's changing to cold plunge and these infrared and all that.
Yeah.
Where we didn't have all that.
It's crazy when that stuff comes out because I'm like, everyone, like no one had it before now, but apparently it's revolutionary. I'm like, it's just cold water.
Everyone's trying to beat Father Time.
Yeah.
And as we know, Father Time is undefeated.
We'll get back to the Olympia stage here. Now, when you dethroned the GOAT, let me ask you this. Did you think you were going to win that show?
I knew I was going to win.
Champion mentality right there. Why?
Because, 4 times I finished second to Ronnie. I witnessed, being the last one standing next to him before he hit the floor with victory. And each time, you look at the body gesture of that person. And in 2005, I had him on the ropes. I was, remember, there's a 10-year age gap. So I was 10 years younger than Ronnie. So the body starts having wear and tear. It doesn't matter how great you are, right? All champions fall eventually, and age is just, we cannot beat age. So when I watched in 2005, I watched him hit the floor. I said, this is the last time. In fact, I predicted in 2006 I would defeat him. I actually said I would shave my head at the time. I was like the only bodybuilder with hair left. This is probably before you even were following it. This was 2006. I won the title. And I said, I'm going to
No, I remember the flow. You had the crazy
one. So I had to so I said, I'm going to win this. I'm going to set history and be the first guy to defeat a reigning Olympia on stage.
Let me interject there. The year before you came in second to him, right?
I did, yes. And the year before that, second. The year before that, second.
Okay. Why this time were you like, I'm going to win this time versus, did you have that same mentality the other ones? Or you're like, I just don't tell people that.
I had the same mentality. I always thought I was going to win, but I absolutely knew in 2006 it was my time. My body was coming to its own. I was 33. I had just turned 33. Your body reaches a level that you just, as I was prepping, I remember rolling a week out. I was almost 290 pounds. I won that title at over 270, 273.
That's a lot of mass.
At 5'9". So I just knew everything was just clicking. I did a photo shoot like 2 weeks prior for Flex magazine. And when I walked in, the jaws hit the floor and said, it's your time. Because Ronnie was there prior and they knew that I was coming hard for this one. And that's when, I said, this is it. I mean, I won that title that night, changed history, and became the 11th.
Were you and Ronnie, last kind of conversation with him, were y'all like close? Or I don't know in that world if everyone's like, hey, great job, or like, I'm going to crush you.
He was going for record 9.
Right. So the record's 8, right?
Yes. So it was a hard moment for him because he was ready to set history where I was ready to set history by beating him. And, you know, he was the undefeated. Like everyone said he will never lose. And I knew that I was the one to beat that, to conquer him. And what I basically felt like, because we were close, we traveled, we did a ton of guest appearances. What they would do before social media existed is they would build up our appearances at events, and they would put the 1-2 guy against each other. Because to be honest, and no disrespect to all the other guys, but during those Olympia years that I was first and second to Ronnie, it's really a lot of the conversation was based on us, and not necessarily about third, fourth, fifth. You know what I mean?
Sure, hated that.
Well, it's a little disrespectful, but in the sense when the same 2 guys end up first and second, you know, for 5-6 years, it's really hard to kind of change the narrative, right?
Yeah.
So for me, you know, we were so close because we traveled every weekend together. We trained together. We'd eat together. We'd laugh together. We'd go to clubs together. We did it all. And the magazines would try to create this battle between us, and they tried to get personal. And that's the funny thing is they had this. People reading the books would think that, oh, these guys aren't as close, but we were actually really close. But when it came down to the Olympia and we were backstage, we weren't friends.
Yeah.
We didn't hang out in the same dressing room and put oil on each other's back or anything like that. It was all business. Because at the time, yes, there was a purse involved. We had huge contracts. We had, you know, a whole gang of, I mean, I would have 100 people there, you know, that I would have to get tickets for just to show up. And he had his family and his fans. And, you know, there were a lot, you know, it was like the Ronnie Coleman fans against the Jay Cutler fans. And I think we both shifted fans because the respect factor we had for each other on stage was apparent. And people knew, and today you'll still see that. There's a lot of events that still bring us in, and we're very respectful for each other.
Yeah. Did y'all, after you won, was there like an amicable...
Yeah,
or would y'all not talk for a little bit?
We didn't talk for a minute. I think, you know, he was a little disgruntled because, I mean, this was his life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, he didn't realize his potential. Remember, I finished second to last in my first Olympia. He was dead last.
Right.
So history, we weren't out of the gate the best in the world. I mean, you have people like Phil Heath came in first time getting third, and, you know, guys like that, right, that really didn't have to go from the back forward. That's why I say, like, when we do our predictions, and I can't stand predictions, on who the next or best is going to be, who would have predicted me to go from 8th to 2nd?
Yeah.
Or Ronnie to go from 9th to 1st? No one would have expected that, right? So it's very hard when we sit there and talk about the current top 5 and not talk about the guy that could leapfrog from the back forward.
I'm sure, obviously, I guess not really putting physiques aside because that's the main thing, but as someone who, you know, was champion, are you able to almost like, are you able to see someone who has the it thing about them? Just for like, for example, is when someone comes up to me and wants to start a YouTube, I can just within just a little bit of communicating with them, I can tell they have like the thing that they'll be successful. Do you think beyond just having a great physique, do you think the whole package, you can kind of see that in someone? I
can, but a lot of it comes down to the mental. Like I pay more attention to the mindset, and that's one thing I can tell you. I met Phil Heath before he became Phil Heath, like the bodybuilder, and you know, I could tell right away. I remember calling Flex magazine a weekend after I met him, and I said, I found the next Mr. Olympia. And a lot of people didn't believe looking at his physique, but I said, this kid has it here. He has it in his mind, because I sat and had a dinner with him at Cheesecake Factory, and we spoke. And I asked him, what is your ambition? You know, what's your vision? And I saw, you know, I could see the physique. How soon he could get there was, I didn't know what that was, but I knew with the mental aspect, he had the ability to be the best. he came from an athletic background. He was very focused on what he wanted to do. Little did I realize he came up to beat me, right? He took the title from me in 2011. So I met him in '03, I think, somewhere around there. And I mean, he took his time and eventually came up and beat me. So
it's funny when you said like you called someone up and it's like, I have the next guy. It reminds me of, you're basically like in the Back to the Future. It's like, you need your new sound. Listen to this. You need your new bodybuilder. So when you won 2 times and then Dexter Jackson came and won in 2008, I was listening to some episodes you've done and some interviews, and you said that was, you said it was like a very, very dark place for you because you never thought you could be beaten. And I not to keep, I want here to talk about you, but when I interviewed Ronnie Coleman, I asked him the question of like, did you think you were going to win every single time? And he had the kind of mindset like, no, I didn't think that. Where it's interesting hearing your perspective where you're like, I didn't think I could lose. And it's just like, why did you have that mentality? And then like, can you kind of dive into like what that dark place was? Like, how did you get out of it?
For the first time, I questioned my ability. So when I lost to Dexter in '08, you know, I was on a roll. I mean, as you know, most of our champions, like Yates won 6, Ronnie Coleman wins 8, and Jay Cutler wins 2 and loses.
What can I ask you real quick? Were you the, I don't know how to word this. Were you the only Olympian to like, did you have the least amount before you lost?
No, there's been one-time winners that have won and then move forward. But the truth is like I won 2 and I lost. So for me, it was like, here I am, I got second.
And you didn't expect
consistently for so long.
Yeah.
So I was literally, besides the number one guy, right? I was the runner-up. So I'm like, okay, what's wrong in my camp? What's wrong with my physique? And because I did everything right in my eyes. I had what I looked at as one of the best, I hate to say the word coach. He was an advisor. I worked with him since I was a teenager. Chris Aceto, he's very popular as a nutritionist in our business. So, and I had the big contracts. I had the lifestyle. I was settled. I was training pretty much. I moved to Vegas to really capitalize on my bodybuilding career with 24-hour gyms. I was training around the clock. So I had to kind of regroup. And what I realized, and I didn't realize this honestly, Max, till after I retired, is it was trying to figure out how to bring my body in minus without Ronnie Coleman there. Because I can brag to you and say, I was 273 at my first Mr. Olympia victory. Well, guess what? I wasn't battling guys like Ronnie Coleman anymore. I was battling smaller guys like Dexter Jackson. Phil Heath was 3rd that year. These guys were all, 220 to, 240. I didn't need to be, 265, 270 anymore. So I was trying to figure out like how to bring my body down in bringing in the right condition and not like looking awkward, if that makes any sense. Because once you expand as a bodybuilder to like a massive size, it's really hard to come down when you look good at that big size.
Yeah.
Like things start to look a little off. The balance doesn't look right. So I had to find and see if I was even capable of bringing my body in to battle these guys, because now, you had, the younger generation coming up. You had Kai Green and all these guys, Victor Martinez and all these people that had more aesthetic physiques than I was. Just I out-muscled people to win. And when I didn't come in like that is why I lost. So I tried to downsize a little bit. It just didn't look right. My body didn't settle in. And that's when I figured out, and I came back in '09, the next year, arguably the best I ever been, and won the title back. And that was like, obviously a huge plus point for me. But that dark place is your ability to be the best there anymore. Like I had to question myself for the first time since I placed second to last at Olympia. And I made the decision I'm moving forward, and I ended up, getting second right away. I had a question whether I was going to retire or not.
When you the mentality of, I can't be beaten, and then you won first, or you won once and won again. when you came in second, and I hopefully it doesn't bring up a bad memory if obviously you came back to do great things, but were you like surprised, or were you like kind of worried at that when you were on stage of, I might not win this?
No, I knew I wasn't going to win. I knew Dexter was better. How can I say this? It was more like a lot of things cross your mind. What are people going to say? What are they going to do? How are they going to react to me? I could tell when I came out backstage, off stage, when people's faces aren't, I remember the normal, like when you're top two or you're pushing, you kind of know like, okay, the reaction, but the reaction is I wasn't so good. I mean, I could just see in people's faces.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a really different atmosphere than I was used to. So I was trying to like handle the emotions and not break down because I was emotional. I mean, this is like, it was my life. You know, I became Mr. Olympia. I was traveling the world. I was recognized as the best bodybuilder in the world, and I was going to get beat that night. So I had to think about, okay, how am I going to handle this decision? Because I know I'm going to lose. Now, whether I end up second, third, or fourth, I had no idea. I assumed I'd be second, right? Because the last two comparisons. But as you see, when Dexter won, I smiled and I was prepared. But I did everything I could between that prejudging and the finals. It was a day, and I went in the saunas and I just dried my body out and came down like super light in body weight and just tried to be as ripped as possible to try to salvage what I could. But it wasn't enough. I didn't win.
Do you think when you came back in 2009 and won, you said you brought your best physique? Now, I feel like the question is, do you think that was do you think there's a true peak of what you can achieve where most people are like, no, you can always get more condition. You can always get a little bit bigger or leaner. But I feel like, I mean, to some extreme, like you can't, just like with strength, like eventually you can't get stronger. Like, do you think that physique was truly like the best of the best and there was nothing you could have done to beat that?
Yeah, I think 01 was really good too. I got second. I should have probably won.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the first time I got second to Ronnie. I was ahead by 6 on prejudging and I lost. It was a very controversial decision. But 09 at 37 years old, yes. I felt like you're probably... Yeah, I think that my physique probably wouldn't have seen any better than that. And I'll be honest, I sat back after 09 victory and I sat with my team, and I had a great team that year. And I worked with Hani Rambod. You know who he is, right? He worked with Phil Heath and all these other guys.
Right.
So I did switch up coaches that year. And I said, should I just stop now because I don't think we're going to be better than this? And he 100% agreed with me. He said, you can't, unless you can reach this again, you are not going to be better than this.
Yeah.
And that was 09. So I went for 10. I won another one, and then I tore my bicep in 11, and Phil Heath won.
Right. Well, with all of the success from the Olympia, I mean, obviously, I just learned out that all of the people who are competing in the IFBB at the Olympia, I just found out that they're not natural. So, would you look at me and think that I'm on steroids?
I hard to tell on a T-shirt, to be honest. But
I mean, look at these pythons.
Let me see. Flex the bicep.
Let me do my right one. Right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
No, you look natural.
I'm actually offended. No, I am natural. I am natural. But with all of the use of steroids in bodybuilding, and I know now you're just on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
Yes.
Can I ask you, like, if someone who's taken steroids in the past, something that I've always wondered, like, you know how when people are young and whatever, they never want to get caught with, we'll say like weed or something, right? Or if people who, get caught, they're like too worried about the consequences of it. Was steroids something that like you never worried about the legality of it? Because it seems like although steroids are legal, it's like this unregulated thing where no one really cares that much. I mean, you've seen the big busts of people who are like distributing whatever, but like in the bodybuilding world is no one just like don't worry about it?
In today's reality, you're saying it is legal, right? TRT did not exist when I started bodybuilding. There was like in high school, when someone said steroids, it was like, ooh. Yeah. It was like on the level of cocaine or something like that, right? Even marijuana, like it was just a rarity if someone really had marijuana. Now today, you know, it's legal in a lot of states. I mean, there's dispensaries. I mean, Vegas, you know, Nevada's one of them. But I think it's become more apparent that people use, you know, anabolics and obviously in widespread in sports, right? But there's always been that fear because like what it takes in professional bodybuilding isn't like a TRT cycle in a lot of sense. Like when I say TRT, now it's like a doctor is prescribing just a limited to keep basically your levels to what they used to be, right? As a younger person, because those tend to taper off with many people, not everyone, but with many people. But when we're getting ready for a bodybuilding contest, it requires many compounds, right? Throughout a cycle of whatever the diet range is. So yes, that was always an obstacle preparing for each year's contest, you know, whether you needed exotics or whatever else. And that was not legal to get. I mean, at certain times you could maybe buy things overseas or whatever else, but you still need to bring them to the United States or whatever else.
I guess the crazy thing about it is, you know, when a lot of like baseball players came out and be like, they're taking steroids, everyone's like, oh my God, like I can't believe this, they're cheating, whatever. But then you look at bodybuilding where it's a sport that you literally have to do something illegal to make it. And it's wild that it's just like, you know, I don't really care what anyone does, but it's just wild that it's like a sport that very apparent, like everyone is using it and it's illegal, but there's no one ever gets in trouble. It's just interesting.
Well, people get in trouble, but remember the manufacturing, like you're talking about compounding, you know, steroids or whatever else. I mean, those seem to be the big reports, but if you're using for general use, I mean, I don't know what the ramifications of that are. I just know that it's something that some people are willing to take in order to succeed in what they do. And not to say every guy is not on the same protocol. Like, yes, certain guys have to take more or less, and there's certain protocols that people use, but, you know, is it necessary? You could do a contest without using any kind of drugs, but you are going to be at a disadvantage if that people ahead of you are using compounds that you are not. You know, your genetics can only go so far, if that makes sense.
I would say that it's literally impossible for someone to win the Olympia as a natural.
For the current Mr. Olympia, yes.
As you know, now in the society these days, I feel like gear usage is more open. People
more accepted. Yes.
Yeah, and like it's, you know, whether it be for good or worse, I necessarily don't really agree with it when like the 17, 18, 19-year-old kids who want to come up on social media are just blasting who knows what amounts of whatever, right? And as someone who's been in the sport for so long, and is there any, like, I guess I'm trying to figure out, as someone who's used steroids for a long period of time, have you noticed anything of like the long-term side effects of it that you're now realizing? Or is it more like, hey, when you come off, like, yeah, I need to be on TRT to maintain, but it's nothing catastrophic?
Yeah. I've been one of the fortunate ones where, you know, back in our era, we cycled on and off. So where we would, you know, mainly use the substance to get into crazy condition and hold the muscle mass, you know, it really didn't take a lot for a person. I mean, the nutrition and the training was the main thing in the off season to get as big, you know, we didn't stay in crazy condition, but when you have that balance of condition and, you know, not lose that muscle that you work so hard for in the off season, that's where it came in more handy. But I believe, and people argue this all the time, there was no such thing as cruising or bridging. So basically you stopped cold turkey. Like you didn't take anything.
Cruising would just be lowering the dose.
Yes. Like we came 100%. There was no use whatsoever. Now today, that's not really recommended, if I can say that, like based on what I hear. Yes, it's out of control in my opinion, but we came on and off, and you know, I just never had any side effects. I never had blood pressure issues or, you know, kidney problems or, you know, any kind of heart conditions, anything like that. Even I blew my weight up to 300 pounds. I mean, I was rather lean at that weight. But like I sit at about 240 today, and I don't have to work super hard for this. I mean, I still train, like, as you can tell, like I talk about, I'm passionate about it, but my nutrition is on point. Like that's one thing about me is my nutrition does not stop. It hasn't stopped since the day that I quit. And when I was training, I can probably go on record and say I was probably one of the most, if not the most dedicated person to bodybuilding. Okay. And people can question, my nutrition was always on point. I ate 6 or 7 meals a day. I didn't miss. And I would train consistently. If I didn't feel like going to the gym, I still went. And I would sometimes train a little harder or a little less. But I believe that your effort is a huge part of it, part of the protocol. But I believe that you should cycle on and off. And today's experts say that's not the truth. That's not what you should do. But I tend to disagree.
Let me ask you, if I'm 100 and at the moment 170 pounds, soaking wet, right? Pretty massive, as you can tell. If I took everything that the top level athlete of right now is taking, and I started training harder and I took everything that they're taking, how big do you think I would get?
It depends on your nutrition, your sleep patterns.
Let's say like starting when I take it, it's all on point from this day forward. Like, do you think I would put on 50 pounds?
You probably could have put on 50. I think
like if I started, you think right now? 50?
Because you have a base.
That would be so crazy.
You have a base, but what the timeline is, I'm not sure. But if you are 100% dedicated, I think, you could, I think naturally you could put on a great deal of weight.
Me?
Yeah.
The heaviest I've ever been in my entire life is 183 pounds for a short period of time. And that's, I guess, the thing with bulking that people are misinformed on, is like, it's almost like a skill set, because me being 183, that is me trying, like, doing the oats, the ice cream, the milk, the olive oil, the banana, like 1,500 calorie shakes 2 times a day. And it was like miserable.
I was 190 pounds natural when I started training.
Yeah.
Okay. At a, similar leanness to you have. And I never thought, till you start training and you stay consistent with it. And remember, your age makes a difference too. Metabolism when you started, even 5 years ago, is way different from now. You might be able to pack pounds on now. You're a lean guy, right? Would you consider yourself lean?
Yeah.
And you eat well. Be honest with me.
No.
You said to me, I'm going to grab a snack. I watch your video. I see you.
Well, now I'm in my diet.
You're eating like jerky meat and whatever, protein bars. Man, if I locked you in a home and said, I'm going to train you for 3 months, I'm going to feed you your 6 meals a day.
Sounds illegal.
And I'm going to push you in the gym, and I'm going to take all these PO stresses and everything else off your, because stress is a huge factor, right? Cortisol levels. I could make you a champion.
Do you think if you were my coach and my training and my diet and everything, and for the next 2 to 3 years, I did everything that you said, do you think I would get significantly bigger?
You'd be a pro.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I should sign. I don't know if you do all the coaching. I think I should sign up.
I can make anyone a pro.
You think Max Tuning could be a pro bodybuilder?
Yes. 100%.
I just interviewed Chris Bumstead, and I'm not saying we look identical, but I feel like, give or take a couple pounds.
Listen, there's classic physique. We're not just talking bodybuilding anymore, open. We're talking classics, men's physique.
It's crazy, the classic physique. I just take Chris Bumstead, for example. He looks like, I guess I'm almost like, how is that any different than what you were doing?
You know what's funny is Chris actually could do well in an open show, I believe. You remember, he's a significantly taller than I am.
Yeah.
Definitely longer limbs, but Chris turned pro as a pro in bodybuilding before the classic came about. So he was well on his way as a youngster and chose to lead the pack, and he is the GOAT of classic now, right? Probably will be 20 years from now the greatest, right?
So many goats in this conversation.
Yes, but he's setting the new standard on what it is, and as you see, to be competitive with him, we haven't seen anyone that's stretched out, that's taller. The shorter guys definitely are at a disadvantage for classic, but anything is possible. And you have now all these extra divisions, that you can excel in. That, you know, I'm not saying you can stand next to Hadi Chupin or Big Ramy or.
Well, I think if I got
Derek
trained by you, I
Lunsford.
should be able to.
No. I mean, we're not going to chase that yet. It's just getting the status and, you know, putting yourself on the right stages. I think you have to take steps. Like, I didn't think that I was going to go stand next to Dorian Yates when I started, who was Mr. Olympia. I started as a teenage competitor, became the best teenager at 19, got my pro card at 23. And then eventually I stood on the Olympia stage, finished almost last. And then within 2 years was knocking the door down and competing against the best of the best.
Just a quick shout out to Dorian Yates. Hopefully I get to chat with him one day. I used to run his blood and guts programs back in college. Loved him.
Crazy training. Well, he would argue he was probably one of the hardest trainers. I mean, it goes back and forth with the intensity between him and Coleman,
All
right?
On just between us, no one else is going to hear this. Who's a harder trainer, you or Dorian Yates?
I don't know because I wasn't there witnessing the.
You can say it too.
You know,
when I ask if I ever talk to Dorian, I'd be like, dude, Jay was saying he fucking outworks the shit out of you.
He would just look. He would look at you stone faced and say, okay. Yeah. You know, he's not going to argue. I don't think any of us will argue who was stronger or trained harder or whatever. They might argue who's better. I don't think Dorian Yates would say he's the greatest bodybuilder of all time, but many would argue that he is.
Yeah. Now, if you ever did train me, I don't know if I could follow your nutrition because you have quite the boring nutrition and some facts that I've learned about you. You have never eaten Taco Bell or KFC.
Never, still to this day.
And you've only had Chick-fil-A one time?
I did it on video actually recently.
For your first time?
For my first
Spicy
time.
chicken sandwich?
Yes, I was not super impressed, to be honest.
Okay, people are about to have pitchforks outside of your home. Chick-fil-A might
Plus
be one of the
line is too long.
You know why? Because it's so popular.
I'd rather have In-N-Out Burger, right? Everyone knows my In-N-Out Burger stories. That's when we were bulking. Phil Heath and I used to go to In-N-Out Burger.
But right now you eat essentially, I mean, besides your breakfast, you eat chicken and rice. You're still living the bro bodybuilding.
Ask Matt. Matt will tell you. What do I eat when we go out to eat? Yeah, chicken and
like
rice.
Sometimes I get crazy and squeeze a lemon on it.
So, you know, I still follow the extreme. My backstory is crazy. You know, I used to buy a whole cow at a time, and I'd buy 140 pounds of chicken at a time. I'd buy 30 dozen eggs.
How'd you fit the cow
I was
in
dedicated.
Your house?
I had freezers, and I would have it ground down into 1 pound patties. Yeah, so I'd actually go to the butcher, and I'd have the cow hanging, and I would pick, grind this, cut this to steaks. I grew up in a great area, which allowed me to be able to do this. And I'd literally buy 30 dozen eggs, and I'd have my whole refrigerator would be full of eggs.
Now you can't afford to buy 30 dozen eggs.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I can't. I just went to the store the other day, and my fiance goes most of the time, and I said, eggs are like $7 a dozen, and she's like, Jay, I said, I thought they were 99 cents.
I know. I thought they just give this stuff away.
I think it's gone down a little bit.
Let me ask you, if I had brought Taco Bell and KFC right now, would you eat it? Or do you want to be the guy that's never had it?
I don't know. I think it's a good topic.
To be honest,
you studied this, and you probably were floored that. And ask me why I never had it. Tell me why, actually.
Why have you never had Taco Bell or KFC?
Because I'm afraid I'll like it, and then I'll want it, and it's doesn't fit my nutrition.
Can I give you a little secret? As someone who's had both of these things,
okay,
they're not very good.
Okay, so good choice, right?
Now I'm going to get pitchforks.
All right.
No, my girlfriend would say I'm crazy for saying Taco Bell is not very good, but it's not very good. And so you still, I feel like we'll call it the bro diet of the chicken and rice. When I was in the upbringing of fitness, I guess, nutrition has evolved with what people think you need to do, right? There was, for a long period of time, it was, you could only consume X amount of protein in a sitting, eat every, couple hours, make sure right after your workout, you'd have a protein shake and a banana. And to this day, I still make sure I have my protein shake after the gym because I'm like, I understand. People say you don't need it right after, but I still feel like it's going right into my muscles. Mm-hmm. So you just never got out of that, even though the times have evolved? Like, you're open to the new machines and stuff, but not necessarily if it fits your macros kind of lifestyle.
I always was on this thing where I ate an hour before training and an hour after. Some people train fasted now. Yeah. Like, this whole fasting thing came about the last 10 years, right? But for me, I think ideally, like, I always needed fuel to train, and carbohydrates worked well with my body. So I was a huge carb eater. Like I might have had a great amount of protein, which, was around 350 a day, 400 grams. I would still eat like 800 to 1,000 grams of carbohydrates on an average day.
See, I would do that with like Lucky Charms or something.
Well, see, I would do it with rice and potatoes.
That's
and
so
oats.
much food.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. But that's how I believe. I believe before and after. But yes, I would still have a protein. I'd have aminos or protein shake, after training with some sort of, quick carbohydrates. But ideally, I eat whole food. Whole food is key. I have my trifecta meals, which, I plug in all through the day. I still eat, right now I'm working my way up. So I'm doing this whole Fit for 50 thing right now. So I'm going to get in my best shape I've been in 10 years. So I'm actually working my way up. I'm eating 5 meals right now consistently. I'm going to go to 6. And then I'm going to start this process the end of April, beginning of May, where I'm actually going to get on a bodybuilding routine diet and transform by August 3rd, which is my 50th birthday.
You don't look a day over 48. I just want to say that. Everyone out here trying to do these 10,000 calorie challenges, you're like, I used to do that daily.
That's not healthy, man. I would eat about 4,000 to 6,000 a day.
I've done the 10,000 calorie challenge 2 times.
How hard?
I hated my life. And what's crazy about the challenge is the first really 4,000 to 5,000 calories, you're just thinking, this is easy. This is no problem. Then you get the 5 to the 7 to the 8, and you're like, wow, okay, this is getting a little difficult. And what's interesting is the last 1,000 calories, which you think you've already eaten 9, whatever, is the hardest thing in this entire planet. Like you have to force feed yourself. You're gagging.
What was the majority of the calories from? What meal? What food?
You would get like Five Guys, McDonald's breakfast, ice cream, candy, Cheesecake Factory. I mean, you just anything for the calories, whatever the most caloric dense thing. But I didn't know there's strategies of you don't eat sweet first, or you want to have savory first. Then after this,
yeah, because your stomach's a disaster, right?
Oh yeah, terrible.
So will you do it again or?
Never in my entire life. I did it for the video clout because at the time it was a trendy thing to do, and I've done it 2 times, and I will absolutely never do it.
What's the most calories consumed in a day, you think?
10,000.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, right there. Like for me, if I was to have I'm gonna eat whatever I want today, calories doesn't matter. I'm just someone who can't eat a lot of food. So I think for me, if I have a complete cheat day and I can be like, Max, have as much food as you possibly want, it would be 4,000 calories, maybe. I just can't eat that much food. That's why whenever
that's a lot though, 4,000.
It is for me, but some people are like, Max, you want to get big, you need to eat, 3,500, 4,000 every day. And I'm like, that sounds miserable.
Will you eat fast food today?
No. I'm on a diet right now. So I'm trying to get even smaller, which is crazy. I'm gonna disappear. I do this thing where I bulk up, from, let's say like after about July or August, and I bulk up until about February to March to get as strong as I can, and then I lose all of my progress and I diet down for the summer.
I hate the word bulking. You know what? Why? It sounds fat.
I do get fat.
No, I doubt that. Come on.
You know what's something? You know how?
What's fat? What body fat percentage?
I feel like as a guy, I'm not allowed to ever think my body isn't that great because everyone's like, oh, you're not that fat. You're not that fat. For me, if I get like 180, I can if I can squeeze my back fat and see it, I'm just like, I hate myself. So I never want to have that.
Do you do cardio or you don't believe in cardio?
No, I do like incline walking. I'm just someone, I just prefer being lean at all times.
I think that's the trend. I think more people want to be leaner these days, but they just don't have the discipline to do it.
Well, I think sometimes people who power lift just use it as an excuse to be a fat slob.
Of course, yeah.
And that's like what I would do. I'd be like, oh no, I'm not eating junk food. I'm powerlifting. I'm a powerlifter.
I tell people that. They say I'm bulking. I said, you're fat. Stop it. You need to realize and be realistic about it.
With all of the kind of like diet trends and whatnot, where you stay true to it, I feel like all of the new trends and whatnot have come from the era of social media. That's where If It Fits Your Macros, which I'm sure you're aware of, became popular. Where everyone's like, you could eat Pop-Tarts for your carbs and stuff, which maybe you don't agree with, but I definitely did. I was like, oh, I can have 300 carbs. Okay, I can have 100 of gummy bears, and that's 100 of my carbs, right? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the evolution of social media in the world where, you were in a sport that didn't have it, and now it's everywhere, and kind of like times have changed.
I think the education can be good and bad, right? When you talk about, like you said, listen, genetics play a huge part in how people are going to react to whether it's simple sugars or higher fat foods or whatever else. Like I used to drink Coca-Cola after training when I was winning Olympias, and people would look at me in the gym like, you can't do this. But ideally your body's going to be a sponge around the training, right? So I believe that, the Pop-Tarts thing, there can be some truth to that.
And they're delicious.
Yes. And ideally, you want to follow protocols that are kind of like a dummy proof. So I think sticking to, the whole foods and stick to your rice, your brown rice and your veggies and your lean chicken breasts or fish. I think ideally if I was to, change someone like you, I think that's how I would kind of push someone to go about their program. But not to say like, listen, I've done it all. I mean, I had candy corn after training and Boston baked beans and things like that.
Now you can have sour strips.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would have anything that just tried to meet the macros, which I hate that term too. It was like protein, carbs, fats. That's all I cared about. I didn't count calories. I just knew, okay, each meal I'm going to have 75 grams of protein, and I'm going to have at least 150 grams of carbohydrates. That's how, and I'm going to try to have as minimal fat as I can. There was no avocado or nuts or anything like that added to my nutrition program back in my era, because I would try to get as much calories from the protein, carbohydrates, and lean sources. So, do I like social media? I actually do not like social media. I am trying to put out a lot of educational, instructional things. If you watch like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all my channels, okay? I try to teach about nutrition, training, living aspects of, lifestyle, whatever it is positive that I can spin off of a textbook career. Because I honestly can tell you what I did in bodybuilding, there's nothing I would have changed.
Yeah.
I believe I did everything in a pattern where it took me, and yes, I fell, but I steered my way through. And you just asked me a very important question, is how healthy are you after this life? And, thankfully I'm very healthy, right? I pay very close attention to that. I was always thinking long-term. Like I said, when I got into bodybuilding, I didn't realize I would be as good as I was, but I knew one thing: I was going to be successful in life. And now I'm given the opportunity to educate and to have a platform that is, if you talk amongst peers, people look at bodybuilding and they say Jay Cutler did things right. And that's, to me, is winning, right? That's better than all this stuff, than the medals and Sandow trophies, Arnold Classics, all that stuff.
You're like, it's better than, all these medals. I mean,
Yeah,
all of them. Look at all of them.
I mean, I wish there was a lot more golds than silvers, since there's 6 silvers there. But
I say just Photoshop that.
This is just a picture anyway. So.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know that's not a wall of actual accolades.
Yeah.
That's a picture of his wall at his house, right?
Yeah.
Now, you said taking care of your health as you've gotten older. I am 33, be 34 this year.
I won my first Olympia at your age. Gosh, that was such a long time ago.
That made me think, like, what have I done? So I always joke about, the older you get, your bones start hurting, it sucks. And I kind of like lean into the jokes of it. But as someone who's about to hit 50, like, it's maybe a weird question. What is life like at 49, 50? Like, does your bones hurt even more? Like,
I jump out of bed in the morning.
Like, how's your energy and everything? Great?
I feel great. I believe, like I said, I did a lot of things to like tune my body, if that makes sense. So a lot of that tissue work and
I used to tune my body a lot as a kid, yeah.
I mean, I wake up every morning, I do my cardio fasted. I use that as kind of a clarity type thing. Do at least 30 minutes, walk the dog. I have my routine. Obviously, I still travel a ton. Like, my schedule is way busier than what I expected it to be, sometimes way too busy for what I like. But hey, I mean, I'm very blessed with what I've done. But I feel really like I can chase this fit for 50 thing. And I feel like I'm never going to get on a bodybuilding stage again for competition, but I feel like I can really, create, that idea that, listen, after bodybuilding, you can still carry a great physique and, still be able to train full capacity. There's not one lift that I'm kind of held back from doing that I did to be the best. Strength wise, I'm not there. Obviously, I mean, I'm not taking the drugs that I took. And that's one thing, like with the Fit for 50 thing, I'm not looking to, enhance myself beyond what I'm doing now. So I'm focusing all on nutrition in the training aspect, not drugs.
So something that I've always said, as someone who's in my 30s, right? I've always said sometimes people will be like, hey, like, what is life like in your 30s who maybe are in their 20s or younger? And I always say, your 30s, in my eyes, are the same as your 20s, but you have more money, right? And then I look at it on the flip side of the thing that sucks about that I've noticed is the 30th is I'm like significantly more like exhausted than I used to be. Like my recovery isn't as good. And I also feel like, as weird as it sounds, I feel like it's going to sound weird. I feel like I'm getting slower. I feel like I don't remember, not in like a terrible way. It's not like drastic, but like, I feel like I don't remember as much. And I can just tell the older I get that like my body is getting older. Can you tell someone who's wrapping up their 40s, like what is life like in your 40s?
You grind in those years, and honestly, like you have a lot on your plate, and you're traveling and you're trying to balance out, I'm sure, like your business, right? I mean, that's the overcome of like, I still look at you as like, you were kind of like a social media, and you probably had aspirations to try to, you were doing YouTube and everything else, right? And then you were, wrapped up in fitness a little bit, and you've taken obviously your brand to the next level now, and that has become your priority. And now you're trying to balance out, and you have a relationship, and you have, all these things going on. I mean, you consider yourself kind of a family man at this point, right? I mean, you love coming home. Probably your best downtime is at home with your dog and your girl, love and just relaxing, right? I mean, that's what I love to do. But I can tell you at 49, I have zero stress in my life. Like I've already achieved way more than I ever expected. And truthfully, financially, like I'm in a position where it's just a flow, right? It's just, I'm very relaxed and like I'm good. So for me, like I don't have those crazy risk aspirations that I had at your age. So building business and listen, ventures, come and go, right? We all go through transitional times. But you have to find a place where your body is reactive in a sense where you find that balance where I'm going to train this way. You should have in your mind, like, I'm not going back to the 500 pound plus, records and everything else. You got to find that balance where you can just, shut on and off. I think that's going to be the ideal thing for you is your mental shut off time. Like you're going to have to find that outlet. Now, I don't know what that is. For me, like I said, it's the gym for me. I don't like taking vacations. My life every day is a vacation to me. So me going to the Maldives or going to Bora Bora, these kind of places, I don't think it will ever happen. I mean, I'll take my trips and I'm still representing, my bodybuilding lifestyle and brands and everything else to the best of my ability, but I'm starting to refuse a lot of things too because I just don't want to travel. I hate planes. Doesn't matter if it's a private plane or a commercial liner. I hate hotels. Doesn't matter if it's a suite or a smaller room. I'm just not a fan of just being anywhere but in my vicinity of my home and my business opportunities. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, you seem pretty like very low stress, kind of go with the flow. I remember when I texted you, I was kind of stressed out because my plane got delayed, and I was like, man, I told him it was gonna be at this time, and your response when I said it might be an hour later, you said no rush at all. And I was like, wow, like I feel like you'd be like, God, I gotta move.
No, I mean, when I commit to doing things and listen, I've followed your stuff and, I'm a fan of the hustle. So I know what it's like to be your age and in building and, I wish you nothing but the greatest success, and I know that you'll do it. I mean, the mental aspect is everything, right? But, it's all about just, laying the groundwork and just having each day structured. Like my morning started so early and I already conquered many of the things where after 4 o'clock, I try to wind down where I used to be here till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. because I'm dealing with different time zones with brands and everything else, that now, I've kind of had a shut off time where I might jump back on later, but I get up super early now, and my early time, is 5 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter how late I go to bed. So I get a lot of things done when people are still asleep.
Something you said a little bit ago when you mentioned about, you mentioned about me not maybe pushing myself to like lift these heavy, weights or go off these accolades because I'm at a different point in my life. Something that I kind of battle with mentally, for me, it's in relation to strength. And with you, maybe it was obviously bodybuilding, where I feel like I'm ready to, I've hit the achievements that I want to do in powerlifting. Mm-hmm. I've never been a competitive, I've competed like 10 times, done very well, hit a lot of PRs, honestly at every single lift, but like I'm proud and satisfied of my strength that I've achieved. But I feel like when you're in the public eye, you always have to be leveling up and pushing yourself and getting stronger and stronger. And if you don't, it's because you're falling off or whatever. And a big mental that I'm dealing with is I think I'm almost ready, and I'm actually going to make a video about it soon, and people are going to hear about it here. But like I'm almost ready to kind of put up the powerlifting. Like I've kind of achieved what I wanted to. I don't want to push my body further. And are there people that are exactly like me that are going to push it further and they're my age and they don't have the same excuses as me? Sure. I'm not them. They're not me. That's where I am at mentally. Did you ever deal with that when you were ready to kind of stop competing, that you thought of what other people were going to think about your work ethic, your dedication? Or maybe it's like, for me, I wonder, I know I'm rambling here, but I always worry that the people will think that I'm stopping strength training because I'm just getting weak or I'm not pushing myself hard enough. So it's like an easy out for me to say.
See, for me, I found social media, and remember, I went from a magazine guy to social media. This happened around 2012, and I started to showcase the business more. And I know that people's perspective was like, Jay doesn't need bodybuilding anymore. Like, he's created all these opportunities for himself, and he doesn't have anything else to prove. I mean, when you reach the pinnacle, right? When you win the Olympia, not once, but 4 times, like, what do you have to prove? And that's kind of where my mindset is. Like, I can't imagine if I would have been second and never achieved the greatness of being the title holder. Maybe I would have thought differently, but for me, I can actually look back and say, I was ready for the transition, and I didn't give a damn what people thought, because I was moving to bigger things. I launched a supplement brand, and I started promoting the events, and I did the next best thing. I created opportunity for the athletes to have a platform. And then I started the YouTube channel, which for a long time featured up and coming talent. So JTV and all these things. So for me, I was really trying to give back at the same time of staying active and spilling over that energy of the stage. So I was able to slowly transition. And yes, there were times I thought about coming back after I quit and saying, oh, I missed the preparation. The stage never was that exciting to me. The only time it was exciting is the lights and the crowd response, because I was so popular. But I hated the whole tanning and getting up there and worrying about draining the water, because I always had an issue like dialing down perfect. I was very rarely 100%. And I just had such wild success outside of the gym, and, with the appearances and, the marketing and, getting involved with the brands, that I thought, wow, this is going to be a great thing for my energy now to kind of transpire to this. And that's where I found myself. So people accepted it. And like I told you, people know that eventually you can't continue.
Yeah.
And, you're wildly successful now in different areas than the gym. I mean, speaking to you just in this conversation, like, I can see the progression, which is a positive thing. And as you get older, that's what happens. I mean, the youngster has that mindset of like, oh, I want to be great in this, but eventually we transition to other things.
Yeah, no, that's a good response. And to kind of like wrap up our talk here, now that I don't use slowed down as a negative thing, but you slowed down in life, right? You're kind of, things are hectic, success, but you're able to kind of separate yourself from it, relax in the evening, which is maybe something you didn't used to do before. What does like a normal day in the life look like for you?
I say slow down. My days are still way busier than everyone else's, in my opinion. But, listen, sitting down and having dinner at home, I mean, it used to be eating out, because for a long time, like you cook the same things over and over. And then you find these restaurants that make particularly clean food and you enjoy the time out. I mean, now that the weather's shifting a little bit, yes, the outdoor patio, dinners and things might become a little more. I mean, it does get a little chilly in Vegas in the wintertime, but, I am traveling pretty extensively on the weekends now, especially now we're rolling to April. I have 2 shows I promote in April. But my day-to-day pretty much, I try to, like I said, finish my work day by 4. I've been training, usually around 6 at night. Usually 6 to 8. The gyms are a little slower there, and like I said, I train at a gym that's pretty exclusive anyway.
They're
most
slower
of the time.
at 6 or 8 p.m.
Yeah, because they get busy. It's weird. Vegas, the gyms are busier like midday here.
Because everyone's
I don't know.
going to clubs at nighttime.
Well, I mean, remember a lot of industry people work at night, right? Like in the casinos and everything else. So, I spend time, with my fiance, and either we, just watch some TV or. Just kind of, discuss opportunity, business, or whatever else. I have the little dogs at home and, working on my projects. And, I try to just, shut down and shut off my mind. And, I still go to bed pretty late. So I might pick up and do some more work as we get later into the evening, especially for international business. But I definitely can shut my mind off a lot better than I could even 5 years ago. Because I was still like, I was like you. I was grinding. Like I said, I will not do what I don't want to do now. That's the difference. I can honestly say that's in the last probably 4 months. I won't do anything I don't want to do.
Okay. And a little note on your dog. When you said little dog, you do have actual little dogs.
Yorkies, yeah.
And I don't think people would picture you with
4 pounds and 6 pounds, and they travel everywhere with us. So these are traveling dogs. So every guest appearance, any expo that you see me at domestically, those dogs are usually in the booth or somewhere around.
Is that kind of like Michael Hearn with his Huskies?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's me with my Golden Doodle, honestly. Yeah. It's with dude. He goes everywhere with me.
He goes crazy when you go walk in the house. I mean, you can tell the attachment. And,
well, it's because he spends 98% of his life by my side.
I honestly can say that, listen, I never had children, but my pets were always, I had dogs through my career. They were very showcased through my videos and social media. And those are my life. Like you say, what are you getting for enjoyment? Like I spend time, I walk that dog every morning, the male, because the female doesn't like to walk as much. But I do spend a lot of time with the animals and just chilling out and I think doing relaxation things.
Comment you made, I mean, obviously you're, a little older than I am. And whenever I make the comment about slowing down, I my head, I'm like, is this coming off as like you're slowing down? But I look at my life and where I used to be, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely there's more stress, there's more work, I'm more financially successful. I have more going on than I ever have in my entire life. But for some reason, now I'm able to, at 7 o'clock at night, I make dinner with my girlfriend. We watch a show. We walk the dog. We watch another show, and we have these three or so hours every night. Where normally I would have been editing, doing emails. I'd be like, I have to keep working 24/7. And even though I'm busier than I've ever been, I'm able to detach at a certain time. Obviously, shit comes up, but that's where I think it's when people can get to that state of mind, and it takes a lot of groundwork to get there. It's like just a breath of relief.
I call that wealth.
Yes.
Wealth is a broad term. So wealth, people think immediately financial freedom, whatever else.
Having your time.
Yes, but time is the most important asset you'll have to manage with, okay? And why have all that, financial success or notoriety and everything else if you can't just be you and enjoy the things you want to do? And for me, like I said, some people like to travel. Some people want to experience things. And I have done that. I've gotten paid to do that. I've branched off. But for me, I hate, I actually admit it, I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
I said I started as an introvert. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't like to do it. We didn't go on family vacations. We didn't do any of those things. So for me, it was the life I was accustomed to. People, my family members don't leave very often where we live. My brothers, I mean, I might have a brother and sister that's never been on a plane once. So for that, I mean, they've come see my shows and whatever else, but, you know, they've taken vans or whatever else. It's just be happy, be settled, be in that state of mind where you're just not stressed out. Why? I mean, what do you do all this for? And I think that too many people miss that opportunity, if that makes sense. So I think in the same sense, we enjoy kind of the same.
What's the phrase? It's like they get so busy trying to they spend their whole life trying to build, I don't know, spend time with your family and friends. That's what matters the most.
Yes, enjoy wealth in life.
Exactly. And I think that's a lovely note to kind of wrap up on. There's one more thing. My buddy Oz wanted me to make sure I brought this up. Is it, there's a little story I don't know if people know much about. Cuts Clothing, the owner, Steven, he told us a story where he wanted to have, I guess, the rights to use Cuts Clothing as a thing. And he said that he approached you to be like, hey, can I use this? And you were just like, sure. You like let him use Cuts Clothing. Is that true?
I don't recall that.
Oh.
His name is what?
Steven Barrett.
So shout out, Steven. I appreciate you.
You helped change his business forever.
No, and it's been successful, right? I mean, appreciate it. No, I mean, that's one thing with me. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I've had great success in a lot of things I've done. So I always want to see people succeed in things. And as long as I'm not taking Jay Cutler.
Yeah, no, I think he told the stories like when he started, he wanted the Cuts Clothing, I don't know, his website or just something. And he was like, "Oh my God, like you have it, or you."
I have Cutler Athletics, or whatever.
Or it was going to cause a problem, and he thought he wasn't going to be able to have that name because but he said he talked to you, and you're just like, "I don't care, like go for it."
Maybe he'll send me some clothing pieces.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now you're like, well, now actually, I was watching your podcast. They're doing 9 figures. I think I need all the back payment on that. But Jay, I want to thank you so much for letting me come to your studio and come and do this show with you. I think people hopefully learned a lot about you. Is there anything you want to leave the people with of, some big things you have coming up in the near future?
I just want to thank everyone for their continuous support. I mean, I'm all, like I said, on all the social media channels now trying to educate. I'm still traveling city to city and, country to country. I'll be in Germany coming up soon. And at every major expo, and anyone that waits in my lines, I appreciate that because I know those lines can be lengthy. And anytime you have the opportunity to say hello, if you guys are in Vegas or you see me in your local gym or at the grocery store, please come up and say hello. And, if you guys want a picture or whatever else, I don't mind.
If you want the softest handshake in the world.
Yeah. So let's see.
That is just, okay. See, even I was more aggressive on the shake there. God, I need your moisturizer routine.
He's trying to size me up a little bit, but listen, I appreciate you coming down, man. And, I just, like I said, I appreciate all the people that don't know who I am now that are on Max's podcast viewing this, or I don't know if you do some audio or whatever.
We do everything.
Okay, so if you guys are listening at home, if you guys want to check me out, Jay Cutler Instagram.
Yeah, I'll put all of your links down in the description.
Everything else. I'm super active on there, and appreciate everyone's support, and do not stop trying for your goals because anything is possible.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will wrap up this episode of Don't Be Sour. All of his links will be down in the description. Check out all his businesses and just all of Jay's socials. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. Did I already say that? I don't know. If you're on any sort of podcast streaming service, give us a 5-star review. I don't know what it does, but I think it helps out. New episodes every Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Eat more sour strips and ever forward. Boom.